my bad, wrong intro. The MG34 is just such an old weapon. I thought we were doing World War II in depth. Let's do the real Modern Warfare in depth intro. Hey guys, Drifter here. Welcome to Modern Warfare in Depth. In today's episode, we're going to be reviewing the MG34 LMG. Even though this is a World War II weapon, it's in Modern Warfare because current day insurgents, terrorists, Taliban, whatever, still use surplus World War II weapons in various capacities. I mean, they actually still use Kar 98, MG34, and even some Sturmgewehrs out there. So it's kind of crazy, but in the context of Modern Warfare, the game, it's a decent weapon with the right attachments, but the open bolt part of it is painful. One of the first things you'll notice about the MG34 is that since it's open bolt, the receiver has to slam forward before it shoots when you pull the trigger, which is a realistic thing, but there's a fraction of a second of a delay between when you pull the trigger and when it starts shooting, which is very difficult for me to deal with. And my overall opinion is that a specialized approach to this weapon is a very bad idea. I found that the more balanced approach when it comes to attachments was much better. But let's get into why, starting with the damage. It has 34 to 30 damage if you're shooting somebody in the upper chest, and that's sort of pecs and up. However, if you hit them below the pecs, abs all the way down to groin, limbs of any kind, that's going to be 31 to 28 damage. So upper chest is a 3-shot kill. Lower than that is a 4-shot kill, which can make the weapon feel a bit inconsistent. And unfortunately, headshots cannot 2-shot kill. Headshot damage will still be 3 at 46 to 42, depending on how far away you are from the enemies. What this means is that the MG34 will inconsistently 3-shot kill. And it's honestly safer to bet on 4 shots to kill when you're trying to gauge whether you can take a guy down or what the situation is. Just bet on 4 shots to kill, especially since the weapon has very high vertical recoil. While you will get some of those upper chest hits via the nature of the recoil, most players, myself included, are incentivized to start aiming lower and get some of those lower, lesser damage hits, which aren't as great. But let's talk about the range of this 3-shot kill, shall we? That sounds pretty nice. The base 3-shot kill range is less than spectacular at 30 meters. However, if you use the FSS Brute barrel, which is the equivalent long barrel on this weapon, it'll go up to 36 meters, so like a 20% gain, but overall nothing special, nothing worth equipping in my opinion. In my opinion, the longer barrels on this weapon are best served to reduce your recoil and less so for boosting your range. But let's talk about something that the MG34 does have going on, and that is rate of fire. The rate of fire is 820 rounds per minute, which is very fast for LMGs, that's fast for SMGs, that's fast for rifles. That's just fast in general. This gun spits out bullets and puts lead down range like no other, and that really is its strongest attribute. Having a high rate of fire means you're going to get more hits on when you swipe over a target. It means that if you miss a few shots, it's less punishing to your time to kill and your follow-ups are easier, and generally, high rate of fire weapons are just good. But unfortunately, what this does to the weapon is it gives it a very inconsistent time to kill. 3-shot kills are very fast time to kill. It's a hyper-competitive, awesome, top-tier T1, use-it-all-the-time weapon if you get those 3-shot kills. 4-shot kills, unfortunately, are going to be slower. The range of this weapon is not ideal, so at a lot of ranges it's 4 shots no matter what. Having the trigger delay or open bolt thing going on really sucks because that adds time to your time to kill unless you start pulling the trigger before you're ready to shoot and kind of preempting and guessing, which I am really poor at, so I generally don't do. And it's generally slow handling, so there's a lot of difficulties with this weapon. It's one of these really max min kind of things that in the right hands can be awesome, but in less experienced hands or in rougher situations can be near useless. However, like most of the LMGs, it has very slow handling, so we will spend the majority of this episode talking about aim down sights and sprint out time after our Astro promo, of course. Today's is very simple. I wanted to let you guys know that instead of the Astro website, you can pick these things up on Amazon, often at an even greater discount. For example, here's for $120 the Astro A40 TRX Edition headset, which is just a fantastic overall value. And Amazon is personally my preferred place to shop. I don't really go to physical stores too much. I got on here today literally recording and noticed that the Astro A10 is $37, which is a redonkulous discount. That is it's supposed to be so much more than that. And then you even have A20s at $100. So if you've been holding out on this, if you don't care about buying directly from the website, if you're already an Amazon customer, there's great deals on Astro products on Amazon, and I would recommend it anytime you want to use it. I put my own Amazon affiliate link down there below in the description, so you can click that and I'll get paid like 1% of the sales or whatever. But yeah, Amazon's good, Astro's good, and let's get back to the rest of In-Depth. So, aim down sights times. Unfortunately, the base aim down sight time on the MG34 is very slow at 500 milliseconds. The FSS Brute is 516, so it's only slightly slower. The FSS Stubby is 416, which is a pretty significant improvement. The FSS Elite, which is supposed to improve aim down sights time, for some reason I measured even slower aim down sights time. Again, maybe I'm drunk, maybe I did this wrong, but I did it live on stream, and it was confusing, but the data appeared to be correct, and the TAC laser will drop it down significantly to 416 as well. But that's not all. There are a lot of attachments for this weapon that affect its mobility. Let's talk about the magazines and a few other things. You can increase the magazines up to 75 rounds, magazine size that is, or 100 rounds, and neither of them seem to affect the base aim down sights time. Those are still 500 milliseconds. You're just going to run a little bit slower. The stippled grip tape will reduce your aim down sights time only a little bit to 466. Adding no stock or the close quarters combat stock are also both 456, so not massive improvements there. However, the stippled grip tape does do other things, such as affecting the sprint out time. Sprint out time on this weapon is pretty slow at 366 milliseconds. That's right where you're going to really start struggle bussing in close quarters. The stippled grip tape cuts it pretty significantly down to 300, and the 5 milliwatt laser drops it down to 266, which is an awesome, colossal, god tier improvement on this weapon. If you're doing close quarters combat, there's really nothing better than the 5 milliwatt laser. And because of its high rate of fire, and that tightens up your hip fire, it makes it not such a bad hip fire weapon either. So it's something to keep in mind. However, in general, overall, you cannot make the MG34 a fast handling weapon, and trying to make it faster in reaction time will ruin your recoil. It will make it nearly impossible to hit anything, and no matter how fast you make the weapon, you still have to deal with that open bolt receiver nonsense delay, which I find very, very frustrating. So in my opinion, trying to make this a speed weapon is not a good idea. Well, let's talk about the recoil on this old gun. It is mostly vertical, but it kind of comes in two different waves. It took me a little bit to get the hang of on stream. Essentially, the first about 5 shots are going to kick a lot, mostly vertical, and then there's minimal vertical recoil. So the first just little fraction of a second you shoot, it's going to go up super hard, and you're going to want to pull down super hard to compensate, and then it's going to go back to lower recoil, and you're going to pull down too much and overcompensate. It takes some getting used to. There's really, it is predictable, thankfully, but there's a real trick in mastering this weapon and getting good at placing your shots. This difference, plus the open bolt trigger delay, can make it feel very awkward. It can be difficult to shoot people when you want to track your targets, to react appropriately. There's a lot of things about the MG34 that are just overall awkward in terms of handling, and I find very difficult because I like fast, snappy, aggressive rushing weapons. However, let's talk about the iron sights. Some people love these iron sights, and I will admit that the actual sights themselves aren't too bad, but I can pretty much never see what I'm shooting at because the muzzle flashes are so bright, and that giant bar on the left-hand side is a little bit more distracting than I thought it would be, even though it's not on the actual sight itself exactly. But generally, a lot of people like to hide in the dark. You know, we got dark corner McDougal's in this game, and the lighting's really harsh, so adding those bright muzzle flashes can be really, really hard. I strongly prefer some kind of optics on this weapon. Magazine size is 50, but as we discussed earlier, you can boost it up to 75 or 100 with no ADS penalties, but there are some movement speed penalties that come along with that. Reload time's an important one. This gun has a punishingly, painfully, brutally slow reload time at 7.82 seconds, which is the slowest in the entire game. It's pretty slow with sleight of hand too. There's not really a way to make this better or faster. It's just gonna be slow, and that part of the weapon you're just gonna have to deal with. It's not ideal in any capacity, but that's just the game we're playing, and if you want to use the MG34, you better be really judicious with your ammunition. Like most of the light machine guns, wall bangs are possible due to LMG bullet penetration, but since this is a lower damage LMG, the damage on the other side of the wall is going to be, of course, proportionally lower, so you'll need a lot of shots to kill, but it can definitely still kill people. And in my opinion, the MG34 is a surprisingly reliable ground war weapon, but it struggles in core modes because it can't be kitted to be fast enough to be effective. And I kept trying to make this weapon, it's like, all right, I'm going to make it a long range, laser beam, counter sniper kind of thing like the PKM, and that doesn't really work because it kicks too much and the trigger delay. I'm like, okay, well I'm going to make it this close range, close quarters combat, rush around, hip fire, Rambo style LMG, and that doesn't really work because of the trigger delay and because it's just going to be a slow weapon, and then the recoil gets too bad to hit anything. And after some struggling, I decided to make a more, what's the right word, versatile class. I decided to go with a balanced class, one that tries to optimize and get a little bit of the best of everything, and when I did that, it became a much better and much more effective weapon. So I'm going to share with you my favorite balanced class setup. I like the Viper optics on this weapon. Honestly, the more I use the Viper optics, the more I started to like them over the GI Mini Reflex. They're just, they're nice and clear, and I enjoy them. I use the close quarters combat stock. It cuts my aim down sight speed a little bit, but doesn't give me any recoil penalties. I use the stippled grip tape to further cut that aim down sights time and shave a little bit off of the sprint off time with minimal penalties, pretty much just aiming stability. Then I put on the Ranger foregrip and the compensator to reduce that recoil, which can be a little bit awkward. And what I'm effectively trying to do is cut the vertical recoil because it's mostly vertical. I can handle the horizontal. I just don't need it to kick above the enemy when I'm shooting at them. I don't play with barrels at all on this gun because I didn't find any that were effective. I don't care for suppressors because it's not going to matter, or sleight of hand isn't going to matter that much. I found with this class, you effectively have a pure bonus weapon that has a better sight, it handles a little bit faster, and it kicks a little bit less, and it's overall easier to use. I got really good results with this, and I think that you will too. Guys, that's all for this episode. I hope that you learned something useful. If you did, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe, or buy an Astro headset. Drifter out.